Hey, how's it going? Carter Sriracha here. I just want to make a quick video about failure and kind of talk about this thing because it's been on my mind a lot lately, right? The way that we define failure as humans and the way that we all look at it and the way that we kind of have this stigma around failure, that it's such a bad thing, right? We've created grading scales. We've created all kinds of norms and different basically definitions for this word, and all of them I found to be completely false. And that's why I'm making this video, because I think that it's really causing a lot of people a lot of pain and struggle. Failure, basically, right? So failure, this is the way that society looks at failure, right? We have A, B, C, D, F. And that's our grading scale here in the United States, right? F means failure. F means that you weren't adequate. F means that you didn't get it done. F means that the job wasn't good enough. And yeah, that might be true. Maybe we didn't get to where we were trying to go. However, F has become such a bad thing. It's become something that's just associated with people you don't want to be around. The type of behavior that you don't want to have, right? And when you do that, when you say, failure's bad, failure's bad, failure's bad, you go down in life, you go down in life, you go down in life when you fail, then that's a perfect way to completely destroy innovation and completely destroy things like science, because science and innovation and change and things like that and improvements are based on failure. So the fact that as a society we've kind of made this a bad thing is just all messed up. It's all skewed. And I'm here today to tell you that failure is, it should be your best friend, okay? It shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing. Some of the other ways that we define failure, not only the grading scale, but rich, poor, okay? Do we look at poor as failure? Do we look at, because we have tax brackets, right? We have different classes, low class is defined, middle class is defined, upper middle is defined, upper class is defined. We have all these definitions for these things and what is bad and what is good, right? And we look at not having money as failure. And we look at things like no's. When we get a no as the answer to our question, or that wasn't good enough as the answer to our question, we look at that as failure and we shut down. We think we're bad, right? And really, I just want to flip all this over, because that's what I've done for myself, and it's improved my life drastically. It's improved my outlook on everything. It's improved really just the way that I do things, because now I strive for failure. I strive to have failure be my best friend, because that's what it needs to be in order to have success. And if you don't believe me, ask people like the Wright brothers. If you don't know who the Wright brothers are, I recommend you at least do a little bit of reading about them, because they're pretty important people. They actually created the first airplane, and it was pretty primitive back then, right? There wasn't a lot to be said for air travel or anything like that. It sounded crazy. It sounded like the future, and it was, right? And it was their future. And what the Wright brothers wanted to do is they wanted to create a engine-powered flying machine, is probably what they called it back then, right? And when you talk about failure, you just have to look at the Wright brothers, and they are the definition of failure. And it's funny you hear that probably for you, because you think of the Wright brothers maybe as a success or someone in the history who did something good. But they are the definition of failure, right? We would have given them an F on the grading scale multiple times. Yet they created freaking airplanes, man. How can you look at that as a failure, right? So let me just tell you a little bit about them. The Wright brothers, they started out with these glider things, right? They started out with these, they didn't have engines. They were just winged flying machines that people would attach themselves to. And they relied on the wind and the weather and stuff like that. And the first one they made, well, they probably made a ton more before that, but the first one that they made public and stuff like that, it was a complete failure. It would just go all crazy. It wouldn't work. And then the second design, they kind of improved. They changed it up a little bit. They added some things. They changed wing size. another failure. Then they created another glider, like a third glider, improved some things, another failure. And like at this point, they were getting like pretty good at making gliders, and these gliders were like okay, but they always relied on like the weather and stuff like that, and wind gusts would always throw them all out of whack and stuff. So they wanted to create this thing so that it could fly like any distance, and so that it was powered by an engine. So that's what they did. But the problem is there weren't any engines in the industry that were like good enough to fly. They weren't light enough. There probably weren't really many engines at all, because it was pretty early on, right? It was like the 1900s, early 1900s, very early 1900s and 1800s really. And like when they tried to actually like make this thing come to life, they couldn't do it because they didn't have the right engine. And there weren't any engines light enough, as I said, and like basically this engine just couldn't fit to spec on their plane. And you know what they did? They innovated. They saw that there wasn't an engine in the world, so they created one that would work. In fact, they talked to their mechanic, and they got him to create one based on what they needed. And this dude actually made an engine to run this airplane. And so then they tried it again, right? But before they tried it again, they had like months. I believe they had like months of like, if I remember right, they had months of weather issues before they could actually test this thing. So I think they had like 3 months of weather problems that they had to go through before this thing was even ready to test. And then when they finally, got around to testing it and the weather was good and it was a perfect day and they were like, okay, let's do this thing. Think about all the failures that they've gone through to get up to this point, right? And they get up on this hill or whatever and they take this thing off, and guess how long it stays in the sky? 3.5 seconds, right? Their glider with this engine, this new and improved engine, stays in the sky for only like 3.5 seconds. So how can you explain that as a success at that point? They were probably pissed, right? I would have been pissed. 3.5 seconds for all those years, for all those failures, and you get 3.5 seconds, and this thing just completely crashes, break all the components on it. But guess what they did? They said failure is feedback, right? They didn't look at failure as like this awful thing, like, oh, we should quit, we should just, keep ourselves down in society because we don't deserve to talk. No, they looked at failure as feedback, and they rebuilt this thing, and then they continued to innovate, and eventually they got it up in the sky for 12 seconds, and then look at where planes are today. I mean, they're like, imagine if we couldn't fly. Imagine if that wasn't part of the economy. That would not be a good thing, right? So just look at how many flights go out of these airports. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to like a huge airport, but just look at all the gates and look at all these huge planes that are carrying, millions of people a day. And it's all thanks to a shit ton of failure, right? So I want to redefine failure, and I want to like start showing people that failure is not a bad thing, and that failure is really feedback. Okay, so let's start looking at failure as, let's not even use the word, because I feel like the word just sounds negative. Failure, it's not failure, it's feedback. Okay, so what feedback is feedback is like data. So data points, like we get these indications of what's good, what's bad. We learn new things and stuff like that. It's data. And also it's pretty much just like a wider view, right? You're just kind of like widening your horizons and understanding it at a deeper level. And like things like Facebook ads and science and things like that would never even work if we didn't have failure, because all of these things are experiments, right? Successful Facebook ad campaigns, we know that we have to run like different experiments, different tests, like different ad sets. And when you run the first one, it's probably not going to work. When you run the second one, it's probably not going to work. Third one, fourth one, fifth one. You've got to run a ton of these before you find one that works. The right audience, the right targeting and things like that, and then like also the right creative and the right picture and the right copy, and all of that stuff has to line up. The objective, all of that stuff has to line up for it to actually work and be profitable. So Look, I mean, if you're starting a business or if you're like trying to do anything great in life, you have to understand that feedback is important. Okay, and when I'm saying feedback, I mean failure. It's important. You should befriend it because it's going to take you a lot further than most people go. Most people don't look at it as a friend. Most people look at it as an enemy, and they just get beat down and they say, "Hey, I'm not good at that. I'm just not going to do that anymore." And the sad truth is that like you're going to fail at everything you try the first time in life. So the things that you decide, "Hey, I'm just going to quit because I'm not good at that," you're never going to get good at it. And you're never going to learn, and you're never going to get better. And that's bad for humans, right? That's bad for society. If you don't want to learn something and push the boundaries and get a little dirty and, mess up on some things, then you're never going to, create something awesome. So what I advise you to do is to go out and create something, right? Go out and test something and go out and get feedback on something. Go out and get feedback on life. Do something that you are scared to do because you're scared of failing. Because failing is the first step to winning. So, I just wanted to make this video today to make that point and to talk a little bit about failure. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I look forward to creating some more videos for you here on my my YouTube channel. So if you did like this one, please just go ahead somewhere below and subscribe to this video, or subscribe to my channel, and then also like this video, and leave a comment really quick below of your thoughts on failure and your thoughts on this video. Until next time, I will see you later.